Hi, it's Chris from Epix Systems again, and this video is all about how to add a supplier into the system using the Supplier Setup wizard. Now this is one of those tasks that you only ever do very infrequently, and often in between doing this you forget how to do it. So I thought I'd put this video together to jog the memory and to remind you how to do a supplier setup. Now I always begin this process from the Create Purchase Order screen. So I would find that in my system here under the Create menu and Purchase Order. Now of course you could get to that from a job sheet by clicking the Raise PO button, and this will do exactly the same thing. Now there are some key pieces of information that you will need to know before you start setting up the supplier. So that would be things like the supplier name and their address, also their account reference as it appears in your accounting packages. And also, if you use multiple branches for these suppliers, you'll need to know their branch locations and names. And also, if you have any contact details for contacts at those branches, their names, telephone numbers, and if you've got them, email addresses would be really useful at this point. And also, if you do have any specific payment settlement terms with the supplier, then we need to know those too. So to begin, we'll click on the plus symbol next to the supplier field, and that will step us into the Supplier Setup wizard. And the first stage in that process is to add the supplier details. Now the reference field, this would be the unique supplier reference that you would expect to find in your accounts package for this particular supplier. So I'm going to add an example one today of Epix systems, and I'm going to assume that in our accounts software, Epix are known as Epix 001. And of course, if you have used that code before, you'll be advised here as that the value won't be unique and you'll need to choose something different. But I would always recommend setting up the supplier in your accounts package first and then replicating it in us. The supplier field is the name of the supplier, how you want it to appear on any documentation. So in this case, it's going to be Epix Systems Limited. If you have a reference to identify this supplier yourselves that isn't this one, then you can use that here. And also, if you have specified any default payment terms for this supplier, you can choose them here. So I'm going to choose 30 days. Also, if you have a discount with the particular supplier, where on all your orders they apply, say, a 5% discount, then you could add that here by simply typing 5. The archive tick box is for archiving a supplier that's already in the system, and I'll show you that when it comes to editing a supplier that already exists. Once done, we simply hit continue. As we can see, we've got a nice green bar here indicating that the supplier was successfully created, and we're now in the supplier wizard here at the branch stage. So if you use multiple branches for a particular supplier in different geographical areas, for example, then you could add these at this point. If the supplier only has the one branch, then you also need to add that here. So I'm going to add a reference here of Epix Man, and that's because this is for our Manchester depot. And the depot field, I have just simply used that to identify where the branch is. The address is the address of the branch, so I should just put the first line of our address for now, with the city, and the postcode of the branch. And once done here, we can press Add. And that will add the supplier's branch here. We can see it's listed below. We can edit it if we've made a mistake, or we can delete it if we don't need it. And then we can also add further branches here. So to add a second branch, I'm going to call this our Stockport depot. And then press Add. As we can see, the branch has been successfully created and we now have 2 here. So you can continue adding branches as needed, and then once you're done, you click continue to move on. Now at this stage we are in the new contact area of the setup, and this is where we can add contact details for the branches that we've just added. So let's say we would like to add a contact for the Manchester depot. Using the live search here we can select the appropriate depot and the name of our contact. So let's have Mike as this particular contact, and we shall add in a telephone number, and we could have an email address. We can add in fax and mobile if needed, and then once we're done we can press add. Now you can have multiple contacts per branch. I'm going to go and add just a second contact here, but for the Stockport branch. So if I choose in the depot field here, the Stockport depot, and the contact here will be Ian, and we'll just add a made up telephone number again, along with an email address, and then we press add. And we continue to add those as needed, and then again once done, click continue at the top. And finally, as you can see, we are now on the wizard complete screen. So what we have done is we've added our new supplier, which is this information here. We've added our branches, which is this information here. And then finally we added contact details for the contacts at those branches, which is the information in the table at the bottom here. So once we're done, we can press close, and that takes us back to the purchase order entry screen. And so just to demonstrate that this was successful, in our supplier field, if we start to type the name of the supplier we've just added, and then we select it, in the branch field now, we would expect to find the two branches. So if I select Manchester, in the contact field, we can then choose Mike. And then we would continue then and fill out the rest of the purchase order for the newly added supplier. Now to edit a supplier record that you've already added, we follow pretty much the same process that we did when creating one. So we go as if we're going to create a purchase order, and then we type the name of our supplier here. Once selected, we can click on the plus button next to the branch field or the plus button next to the contact field to step into the supplier wizard again. You wouldn't do it at this point because pressing on it here takes you in to create a new supplier. So if we click on it next to the branch field, as we can see now, that's stepped us in here at the branch stage of the wizard. So here we can create a new branch, we can edit existing ones, or we can delete them. We can step backwards in the wizard to the supplier page, where we can then make changes to the supplier record, pressing update to make any changes. We can then continue through and then make any changes that we need to do to contacts and add further contacts if required. And then finally we can press continue to review what we've done and then press close, and that will then have edited whichever details you changed for either the supplier, the branch or the contacts. As ever, any questions at all regarding anything you've seen, do get in touch, we'll be happy to help.